Okay, so our topic for today is all about financial management concepts and working capital management. So, financial management here is it is the concern and duty of the financial manager who is responsible for making significant corporate investment and financing decisions. So, yung financial management po ay yun po yung duty ng financial manager. Siya po yung nagde-decide if needed na ba to obtain a certain financing, like uutang na ba sa bangko, or is it okay to invest in a new business venture? So siya po yung in charge sa ganong decision. So, and that is called the financial management. Another concept is the working capital management. So it involves managing the firm's current assets and liabilities to achieve a balance between profitability and risk that contributes positively to the firm's value. Okay, so what is working capital? So according to financial analysts, working capital daw, it talks about the current assets only. Tanan current assets are the working capital. So on the other hand, accountants, according to them, working capital equals current assets minus current liabilities. So ano nga ba talaga ang working capital? So if you are in a business, what is the things that or the part of your uh, assets, liabilities, and equity that you are using in the day-to-day operation? So it is the cash because in times that there is a payable or a bill that arises, syempre, babaydan mo ito in cash. You're going to pay it in cash. So, sometimes also, if you sell inventories on account, then you use the inventories, of course, and also the account receivable. So, yan po yung day-to-day na nagagamit natin in the operation of the business. And also the current liabilities. If you are going to buy inventories on account naman, then you use liabilities. So, ayun. So, our objectives for this lesson is to understand the role of financial managers. Second, identify the basic principles in managerial finance. Third, identify the difference between a conservative and relaxed working capital policy. Fourth, understand the factors to consider in managing working capital. And fifth, understand the trade-off between risk and returns. Okay, what is the goal of financial management? So according to our book, the goal is to maximize the shareholders' wealth rather than to maximize profit. So when we say shareholders' wealth, yan po yung, for example, the price per share. Not only yung profit natin because sometimes baka damugad nga ni or marami nga tayong profit but then we don't give enough dividends. So we should prioritize the shareholders' wealth. Next one, financial managers make best decisions that maximize the market value of the company's shares of stock. So ayun. So it should be the ultimate goal of financial management is to maximize the shareholders' wealth by maximizing also the market value of the company's shares of stock. If the company's market value of the shares, if the company's shares market value increases, it also increases the shareholders' wealth. Of course, because pag bumili ka ng share at a lower price, and then nag-increase yung price ng share, ibenta mo siya, then as a shareholder, you'll get a gain. So, yun. What is it, or what are the role of financial managers? Okay, so there are a lot of roles actually. It's not just limited to these five. There are other rules of financial managers. So the first one is financial analysis and planning. That's the thing that we have mentioned a while ago. Kung how much will be the amount to employ in the firm through liquidity and profitability analysis, or like for example, how much should be invested in a new business venture, how much will be sourced from the creditors if we need additional investment or additional funds. So that's the role of financial manager. Next one is the investment decisions. So if there are different or few projects that are available, he or she is the one to decide which is the best project to invest in, considering kung hain nga dait may ada greater returns or lesser unrisk, but then it will yield greater returns. So it is the responsibility of the financial manager to decide whether to accept a certain project or select the project which has a small risk but has a greater return. Third one is financing and capital structure decisions. Outsourcing company funds, mix of debt and equity financing. Okay, so they're the ones who ask for finances, investment from outside investors. So, ayan po yung role ng financial manager. I have already mentioned that. Okay, for number 4, management of financial resources. Of course, he is the one who decides when to pay the the credit that was granted to our company by our creditors, and when is the right time to use the current liabilities instead of paying in cash. So he is the one in charge. Another one is the risk management, managing the firm's exposure to all types of risk. So it's easy to comprehend. He is the one who decides whether a certain project is risky or whether that project is worth it na i-take natin or hindi. So, ayun. Okay. It has been mentioned here that the task is not only done, those tasks cannot be done by one person only, but it is done by different people with different responsibilities. Like for example, the treasurer, the controller, the CFO. Okay. In large firms, financial responsibilities are usually carried out by the treasurer and or controller, which has been mentioned, I think, kaniyo financial management financial accounting subjects previously, I think. While the chief financial officer, CFO, usually oversees the work of both treasurer and controller. So CFO has the higher rank than the two, than the treasurer and the controller. So treasurer is the one who is in charge with investment relations, um, uh, credit relations. If your company or our company would like to take one person who wants to ask for credit from our company, kung magpapautang ba tayo or hindi. So it's the treasurer's job. And also good banking relations, etc. So it has been discussed during the financial managerial accounting subject, yung mga responsibilities of the treasurer and the controller. And also the CFO. Kindly read na lang previous discussions niyo for managerial accounting. Okay, so we have here the different considerations in financial management. The first one is the risk and return trade-off. A company does not take additional risk unless it expects to be compensated with additional returns. So ayun, like for example, kita nala, if we are going to, let's say, are we going to buy a cell phone and titingnan natin kung is this cellphone will give us additional income or not, or it will just give us additional expenses sa paglo-load. So, okay, let's say for example ako, bibili ba ako ng cellphone o hindi? Ang paggagamitan ko lang is mag-ML lang ako. Hindi naman ako magaling mag-ML. Tapos, sa Facebook lang, wala naman akong online selling business. So, will it be worth it na bumili ng cellphone? I think in that case, hindi. Because wala naman akong mapagbebentahan, wala naman akong online selling na business, wala naman akong marireceive na money out of buying that cellphone. But on the other hand, if bibili ako ng cellphone because of online class, and then I also have an online selling business, then I will definitely buy that cell phone because I know that the risk of buying that cell phone will give me additional returns by my online selling business, by also getting enough knowledge through my online class. So that's one way of considering the risk and return trade-off. Okay, next one is the time value of money. This is very common. A peso received today is worth more than a peso received in the future. Okay. Pag mag-iipon ka, tapos ilagay mo siya sa time deposit account, like for example, 10,000, ilagay mo sa time deposit account, hindi na siya same amount mga 5 years from now because it has already earned interest. So, hindi na siya 10,000 lang. Whereas kung ilagay mo lang sa cabinet, then of course, yung 10,000 mo, 10,000 pa rin yan, but then it was already subject to inflation. Bumaba na ang kanyang value because of inflation. That's why it's better to have it invested in a bank or other financial institution. Okay. Cash, not profit, is king. Cash. Of course, because what if magkaroon ng due na accounts payable mo? Payable siya within 5 days, tapos wala kang enough cash. Then in that case, malulugi ka because it will earn interest. So ayun, you should have enough cash on hand for the accounts payable that is about to be due soon. Next one is incremental cash flows. It's only what changes that counts. Okay, if you are considering a new business venture, so iisipin mo kung meron ba siyang additional na cash na mabibigay sa company mo or wala. If not, then don't consider that. Incremental means additional, parang makakapag-increase ba siya ng inflow mo sa cash or not. Kung hindi, it means it's not worth taking the risk. Next one is the tax consideration. Of course, everything that we have to decide should be considered yung tax implication. So, magde-decide ba tayo ng new business? Taxable ba to o hindi? Ilan ba yung tax nito? Mas malaki ba yung tax nito kesa sa incremental cash flow? So, ayun. We're going to decide on that through financial management and also through working capital management. Okay. Ethical behavior, of course, always. In your business, ethical behavior is very important. So, it doesn't mean nga, okay, naisahan mo nga yung customer mo ngayon, nagbigay ka ng low quality na inventory, it doesn't mean na ikaw ay nagtagumpay because what if that customer meron siyang kakilala tapos sinabi naman sa kakilala niya at sa kakilala pa ng kakilala niya. So meaning, magkakaroon kayo ng bad publicity. So bad publicity, bababa ang customer niyo at most probably would lead to bankruptcy. Ayun. So we have here two working capital policies. We have the conservative and the aggressive. Tandaan nyo lang, pag conservative, meaning nag-iimpok ka ng enough cash kasi baka anytime soon may babayaran ka. So ayun, a greater amount of investment on current assets is made and a smaller amount of short-term financing is used. Short-term financing. So mas marami yung current assets mo compared sa short-term financing mo. Kasi nag-expect ka nga dapat may ada ko kwarta, dapat may pera ako whenever mayroong magjuju na bayarin. So dapat conservative ka parati. Okay. How about aggressive? A smaller amount of investment on current assets is made and a greater amount of short-term financing. Sige, mangungutang lang ako. Kahit konti lang yung current assets ko dito, mangungutang lang ako because I know that I will be able to have cash on time para mabayaran ko yung liabilities ko. So, more on malaki yung current liabilities mo, maliit lang yung current assets mo, delikado po to. Kasi baka pang may mag-due tapos wala kang enough cash, edi makaka-earn ka ng interest. Sayang din yun. It's a loss on your part. So again, pag conservative, damutim assets, we have a lot or more than enough cash on hand para at least I'm conservative whenever meron akong babayaran, I have something to pay. So, aggressive naman, sige, it's okay to be asking for short-term liabilities, short-term financing, because I know, I believe that I will have enough money, enough cash on hand by the time that it will be due. So, agresibo. Okay, here is a summary. Conservative, relaxed ka. Siyempre, pag alam mong meron kang pambayad, siyempre, relax ka. Kasi hindi ka mag-iisip na, baka wala akong pambayad by that time. So, relax ka lang kasi meron kang pambayad. Working capital investment, of course, high because you have high current assets. Reliance on long-term financing, high din kasi more on sa long term ka instead of sa short term. Okay? Mangungutang ka ng alam mong hindi pa magjuju, makalawa. Alam mong matagal pa siya magju. Profitability, lower kasi syempre, yung cash mo na instead na i-invest mo sana sa iba, nasa company mo lang. Kaya medyo mababa yung ating profitability. Liquidity, of course, higher because marami kang cash on hand. So you can easily pay your liabilities on time. Aggressive naman, restricted kasi you don't have enough current assets on hand and maybe there's a possibility that you will not be able to pay the currently maturing obligations. Working capital investment naman, it is low because more on sa current liabilities ka. Di ba ang ating working capital is current assets minus current liabilities? More on sa current liabilities ka which is deducted from current asset. So meron kang low na working capital. Reliance on long-term financing, low din because you rely more on short-term financing for aggressive. Profitability, of course, higher because wala kang cash on hand. Yung cash mo na i-invest mo sa ibang bagay so it will earn additional interest. But then there's a risk. That's why sa liquidity naman, low liquidity. You don't have enough cash on hand that could be used to easily pay the currently maturing obligations. Wala kang pambayad. Meron naman siguro pero hindi ka pa sure. There's a possibility na hindi mo yun mabayaran. Okay, that's the idea for the two working capital policies. Okay. Working capital assets have two components, the permanent working capital and the temporary working capital. The permanent working capital asset should be financed with long-term financing. Permanent ha, dapat long-term financing. On the other hand, there are three options in financing the temporary working capital assets, very conservative, moderately conservative, and aggressive policies. So ayun. Kindly read na lang this one and take note of this. It is very self-explanatory. Okay, so it's like this. Move natin to doon. Okay. For conservative, marami tayong current assets, maliit lang yung liabilities. For aggressive, maliit lang yung current assets natin, more on short-term financing, current liabilities. Kaya po, pag ninet natin, current assets minus current liabilities equals working capital na mas maliit for aggressive kasi marami tayong binawas na current liabilities. Whereas kung conservative naman, we have enough or more than enough current assets, binawasan na natin ng current liabilities, so we have higher working capital. Okay. Sound working capital policy requires managing cash and its temporary investment efficiently, okay, ensuring efficient manufacturing operations and sound material procurement, okay, for inventory yan. Drafting and implementing effective credit collection policies. By the way, these guys will be discussed na next meeting. Isa-isahin natin yung sa cash, sa inventory, sa receivable, at saka sa short-term credit financing. Isa-isahin natin yan. Okay. Okay, the last part of our discussion is the operating cycle and net cash cycle. And I know that you are very much familiar with the turnover formula. And then the average AR formula, average AR, average age of inventory. So this is the formula for operating cycle. The net credit sales, this one for trade receivables divided by the average account receivable. And to get the average account receivable or average age of account receivable, we're going to divide 360 by the. Okay, class, the meeting will end in 10 minutes. You can just click again on the link bangin kita makuan. So, in case ma-end siya, kindly click on the link na lang to return. Return lang kayo, class. So, okay. In here, we will use 360. But in some problems, pwede nyo rin gamitin yung 365. So, tingnan nyo lang kung merong answer na lumalabas na 365 yung ginamit nyo, then choose that. Because usually 360 yung ginagamit. But then if there is nga mayroon 365, then piliin nyo na lang class. Okay. So for inventory, again, the cost of goods sold divided by the average inventory. And to get the average age of inventory, then it is 360 or 365 divided by the inventory turnover. And the trade payables again, net credit purchases divided by the average trade purchases or average AR. Pwede rin siyang average accounts payable, average AP. Yan na lang para mas madali. Average accounts payable or 360 divided by yung result nito to get nito. Para makuha yung average age of payables. So it will be 360 divided by the trade payables turnover or average or accounts payable turnover dito. Okay. Are you still there, class? Are you still there? Andyan pa ba kayo, class? Do you have any questions so far?
None so far, ma'am.
And so far, was it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you can just visit my YouTube account for the replay of our session. But then, starting now, I'm gonna ask you some questions and all you have to do is to answer it. So, yung ibang nahihiya mag-answer, you can just type it sa ating chat box. Okay? Dito. Okay, question number 1. Which of the following statements is correct? Letter A. The stockholders' equity is a major component of working capital. Letter B. Net working capital is the difference between quick assets and current liabilities. Letter C. Working capital is a measure of long-term solvency. Or letter D. Net working capital is the difference between current assets and current liabilities. So which is the correct answer? You can just type A, B, C, D sa ating chat box, or you can just say A, B, C, D through the microphone. Class, wala ma-answer? Walang sasagot? Again ha, basahin ko ha. A, B, C, or D lang. Which of the following is correct? A. The stockholder's equity is a major component of working capital. Letter B. Net working capital is the difference between quick assets and current liabilities. Letter C. Working capital is a measure of long-term solvency. Or letter D. Working capital is the difference between current assets and current liabilities. So which is the correct answer? Okay, someone got the correct answer. Okay, very good. Mark Jeho Bakilod and Israel Jade Opanda. You got it. Letter D is the correct answer. Net working capital is the difference between current assets and current liabilities. So it ito remember. Okay, another one, huh? Second question. I will only have 3 questions for you. Second question. The primary objective of working capital management is to, primary ha, letter A, maximize the company's total current assets. Letter B, minimize the company's total current liabilities. Letter C, balance the amount of current assets and current liabilities. Or letter D, achieve a balance between risk and returns. A, B, C, or D. Okay. Sige, may answer pa? I'm gonna count 1 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So the correct answer is letter D. D again. Achieve a balance between risk and returns. Okay. Last question. In a conservative or relaxed working capital financing policy. Letter A, conservative ha. 'Di ba dapat conservative diri ka mahadlok kung may ada baraydan. Okay. Operations are conducted on a minimum amount of working capital. Letter B, operations are operated with too much working capital. Letter C, short-term liabilities are used to finance not only temporary current assets but also part or all of the permanent current asset requirements. Or letter D, the company is exposed to risk of illiquidity because of low working capital position. Conservative adto ha, conservative or relaxed. Okay, I will repeat. In a conservative or relaxed working capital financing policy. A. Operations are conducted on a minimum amount of working capital. Letter B. Operations are operated with too much working capital. Letter C. Short-term liabilities are used to finance not only temporary current assets, but also part or all of the permanent current asset requirements. Or letter D, the company is exposed to risk of illiquidity because of low working capital position. A, B, C, or D. Okay. So, do you have other answers pa? Ano iba? Ba't walang nag-a-answer? Okay. Para maiba naman. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna count 1 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, the correct answer is letter B. Diba, I have already mentioned that if it is conservative working capital financing policy, then there is a lot of current assets and maliit lang ang ating current liabilities. So it means we only we have, yes, relax or conservative. Yes, tama. Relax man and conservative. So, relax ka, kay damot imo ibarayad. So, that's why you have a lot of working capital. Adi bonus question na last na line eh. Number 4. Financing inventory build-up with long-term debt is an example of, again, financing inventory build-up with long-term debt is an example of, letter A, a conservative working capital policy. Letter B, matching policy. Letter C, an aggressive working capital policy. Or letter D, hedging policy. So, okay, answer now. I will count 1 to 5.